3 stories you need to perfect as an entrepreneur. If you do this right, it's pretty awesome. I mean, all of a sudden, you'll have employees lining up to work for you. You'll have investors that want to give you their money. You'll even have partners come to you. You don't even have to pitch them because they've heard your story. But there's 3 that you need to perfect, and that's what I want to share with you guys. Most people have a real challenge around this because they don't know what to share. They've never even thought about a story around those key situations I'm going to share with you guys. Or when they do share a story, it's way too long. Maybe you've had this experience where you had press interviews or podcast interviews and you're kind of rambling and talking, and all of a sudden the article comes out or the podcast comes out and they've edited or cut your answers. So this is a video to really tell you guys about the framework around story and also the 3 key ones you need to nail. I learned this when I moved to San Francisco. I thought, you know what? Enough's enough. I want to be a great leader. I need to learn how to speak. So I reached out to my buddy Gare, who's one of the world's best speakers, top branding experts. And I said, Gare, how do I become a better speaker? He goes, you really want to know the answer, Dan? I said, yeah, that's why I'm calling. He goes, all right, here's the strategy. I was like, listening. He goes, always say yes. And I was expecting this huge, elaborate, detailed, kind of 12 checklists, framework. And he's like, always say yes. And you know what? It couldn't have been better advice. If you want to learn how to tell your story, is anytime you have the chance to do it, always do it. Always say yes. And that year I ended up giving 25 talks, and it's just catapulted where now I get up on stage in front of thousands of entrepreneurs all over the world. I've spoken at major universities and I think across 7 different countries. And it's now just part of it because I've learned how to tell a story. So first thing I want to share with you guys is a story framework. Right? And it's really this simple, but maybe you haven't heard it before. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the beginning is the aha moment. It's setting up the situation for the character and the journey and kind of what was it that started this specific story. Again, it could be a 1-minute story or it could be a 1-hour story, but you need to have the beginning that sets up the rest of it. The middle is the climax. It's that friction, that challenge that they had to kind of go up and that journey, right? And eventually overcome it. And then the end is the resolution. See, this is where a lot of people, when they tell stories, they're really good at saying, here's where I was at, and here's what happened. And they forget to tell, what were the lessons learned? What came out of that event? They just kind of share the first part, and it kind of leaves the listener hanging. So that's the story framework in its simplest form. Now, the 3 key stories you need to nail as an entrepreneur is, one is the origin story. Right? It's that first part. It's each one can kind of be its own story, but origin story is, why did you start this business? Think about this. If you're getting interviewed by the press, they're going to ask you, why'd you start the business? Have that story figured out, right? What was that aha moment for you? What was the journey to kind of figure out how to solve that problem? And then how has that turned out so far in your business? How many customers do you have? How much, what locations you have stores in, whatever it is. But it's that aha moment, that struggle, you came up with the solution, and then the resolution, as I mentioned. That's the origin story. The second story you absolutely need to nail is the customer story, right? Because the question they're going to ask you is, well, what does an ideal customer look like? Who uses this? So if you don't have that one figured out, you're going to lose an opportunity to get more customers, because that's how people listen. So the customer story is really about saying, an ideal customer for us looks like this. Actually, as an example, there's a woman named Jane, and you tell the story. Right? You must have, if you have customers today, there must be one customer is your ideal customer, your favorite, the one that you love to talk to, that's always giving you feedback on your business. Use their story and honor them as part of that customer story. So that's the second one. You want to figure out, it's Jane was in this situation, she had this problem, she used our product, and then her life is beautiful. All right? That's the framework. The third one, this one is my favorite one, it's the product story, is how does it work? Right? So if you're talking to the press or podcast interviews, okay, I hear what you're saying, but how does that work? That's your opportunity to say, well, this is why we built the product. So it's kind of like a hybrid of all of these. This is why we built the product. Here's the problem that we solve, and here's the potential once you use the product, right? The vision for the product. Here's the market and where we see it going. But understanding that product story will really help you connect with the potential customers that are listening on the other end. So again, those 3 ones real quick is the origin story, the customer story, and the product story. Learn to tell it using the story framework I shared at the beginning. Now I want to ask you guys, what story are you going to start telling? Leave a comment below and let me know. Which one of these stories do you want to add to your daily conversation and just start practicing with other people? Now, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I'm going to ask you to subscribe. Share this video with anybody that was really challenged right now with telling their story for their company. And as per usual, I want to challenge you guys to live a bigger life and a bigger business, and I'll see you next Monday.